All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Living in the Texas Hill Country. I'm Carly Howell. I'm the Ag and Natural Resources County Extension Agent in Blanco County. And with me today is Dr. Megan Clayton. She is going to talk a little bit about plants in the Hill Country today. So we know that soils support plants, but plants support all the livestock and wildlife that we enjoy in the Hill Country. So today we're just going to spend some time talking about our favorites.
Great.
Dr. Clayton is our professor and extension range specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. And so to start us off, what is your favorite plant?
Oh, well, everyone may not agree with me, but when I see Queen's Delight, which is also sometimes called Texas Stellangia or Stellangia texana, I always think it's beautiful. It's kind of a lesser known form that has these huge seeds that are loved by wild turkeys. And there's three species in Texas, and sometimes it gets a bad rap because one of the other species that really doesn't exist here could be poisonous to sheep, though we really don't ever see that. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Queen's Delight. What about you? Do you have a favorite plant?
Cool. Um, honestly, I have a Texas sage in my yard and I really love it. When I get in my car every morning to go to work, I always look at it to see if it's blooming. Um, we have master gardeners here in Blanco County, and they taught me about this plant that it blooms whenever the humidity is high or around rain events, either right before or right after it rains. And I just thought that
That's
that was the
cool.
coolest thing ever. Yeah. And it has really pretty blooms. I've seen purple ones. Mine in my yard is kind of more of a bluish, and the
Oh,
leaves are a
yay.
little bit more pale. So I just think it looks so pretty. But you also don't have to do anything with it, in my opinion.
Sure.
I've seen some people try to hedge them and kind of block them out, and they look cool that way. But I think you remove some of the blooms doing that. So I just let mine go, and I think it looks amazing. I also don't have to
Absolutely.
water it, so that's a plus as well.
Major plus, yes.
Yeah. And while I was thinking about that too, I actually have a book here in my office. It is a native and adapted landscape plants. I think it is a Texas A&M AgriLife Extension um, book, but it's also through the City of Austin Watershed Protection Program. So that is available online for free, but you can also order books for it. It goes through a lot of really cool plants that are, of course, native to our area or Texas in general. And then some adapted ones as well. And then it kind of gives you a guideline. Does this benefit wildlife? How much water does it take to
Oh, yeah,
keep
that's
it
really helpful.
thriving? Yeah. Or even how much light does it require? Is it okay to have in shade or full sun and things like that? But it's got trees, shrubs, grasses, and everything. So I'll link that below in the comments.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, it's interesting. You said that booklet had native and adapted plants, or that's the name of it, I guess, native and adapted landscape plants. And sometimes people talk a little bit about adapted plants and how, adapted plants aren't necessarily supposed to be in our region, but they just happen to do really well. And so sometimes they're suggested because maybe they're super pretty or they bloom at different times of the year when we have very little blooming. And, I think they can be quite beautiful and they do well in our hot and dry conditions. So normally in a landscape, they work pretty well, but I would want to caution you that before you plant a non-native plant in your landscape, be sure to look at the Texas Invasives list. It's at texasinvasives.org. And just check out if that's a plant that might be a problem later on. Because I know a lot of people have planted some really beautiful grasses like Mexican needlegrass or feather grass. Or there's a vine, Japanese honeysuckle, very pretty vine, but it is so invasive and it becomes a problem in our pastures and in our landscapes on rangelands. So for the most part, I tend to promote true native plants, but if you do want to put some adapted plants in your landscape, just be sure they're not some that's going to be a headache for you later on.
Yes. So what about trees? What are some trees that do well in the hill country? I know I get that question a lot.
Oh my gosh, we have so many trees that do well in the hill country, and we tend to focus a lot on the oaks and the oak wilt problem, but there's tons of other trees that are not even oaks that are quite beautiful. One of them that I love is the Texas redbud. Texas redbud has these cute little heart-shaped leaves, and they have pink flowers, and they flower for quite a long time. It's fast growing, it's very hardy. You don't have to do much with this plant. Um, we recently planted one because I love the one that was in my dad's yard so much, and it grew really quickly. It started out as a little shrimpy, 2 foot tall plant, and now it's well over my head, and super beautiful. Some people even use the blooms in their salad to decorate up their
Oh,
salad, and they
cool.
say they're edible and taste good. I've never tried that, but I just might. But just be sure that you're planting Texas redbud and not Eastern redbud, because Eastern redbud is
Mm.
not going to do as well here. And you'll end up hating me for suggesting it. So get you a Texas redbud. Another really cool one is Carolina buckthorn. It's more of like a shrub species, and I like it because it does well in the shade and in the sun. Like you were kind of mentioning, they point that out in that booklet. Um, Carolina buckthorn has of like these really, really shiny green leaves and what I call deep venation, because you can really see the veins in the leaves really well.
Oh.
And it's just super pretty. And it puts on these huge clumps of berries that birds really love. Butterflies are attracted to this plant. So you're going to see a lot of use by our insects and our wildlife. Too, be aware that deer also like to nibble on Carolina buckthorn. So if you have a lot of deer, it may not be the right plant for you, but a lot of times you can put it in your landscaping in such a way that it can't be easily reached, and it can make a really pretty tree addition that's not going to get too huge. So I guess Carolina buckthorn and the Texas redbud would be my 2 top go-to trees.
Awesome. Yeah, our master gardeners really love redbuds as well.
Yes, they're
Um,
really pretty and easy.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like you said, they do grow pretty quick. I've seen some
Too.
people plant them and they were impressed by how quickly they grew.
Yes, it's good for those of us who are not very patient.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do get that question a lot too. Not just what tree does well, but what tree does well and will grow quickly. And I like to recommend that one.
Yes, exactly. Dead ringer.
Yeah. So now let's talk grasses. They can identify, especially for me, just my experience not being from this area of Texas. I know I have a hard time identifying them a lot of times. So do you have any tips for us?
Oh my gosh, grasses are really hard. A lot of them look very similar. Or if they don't have a seed head, it just looks like grass blades to you. But there are some very subtle characteristics that each one has. Sometimes you could take a piece of paper and put it behind a grass when you take a picture. That way its features kind of stand out a little bit more. You can also make sure that when you take a picture, it's not blowing in the winds, because that usually makes it just a little bit fuzzy. So you can't blow up the picture later on to look at some fine characteristic that might separate a couple of close ones. But I do have some favorites and things that you probably see regularly around the hill country. One, of course, is our state grass of Texas, Cytodes grama. We see that all over the hill country. Texas grama, our Cytodes grama looks very similar to Texas grama, which is a much shorter plant, but they both kind of grow their seeds on one side of the rachis, or that stem that's holding on all the seeds. Texas grama has more open seed heads. I don't know, they look more beaked to me, like it's
Hmm.
open a little bit more and a little fluffier than our side oats grama, which grows quite bigger than that. We also have silver and cane blue stem. Those are the grasses that have kind of a silvery fluff on the end. They're both really pretty. Cane tends to be more robust, bigger plant than silver blue stem, and it has like this ring of dense hairs on its node, which is like the stem joints where it's got a little bump. You're going to see some hairs on those for cane. But silver is one of my favorite grasses in a native seed mix, because when we plant them, silver tends to come up a lot faster. And so for that reason, I have a lot of respect for the silver blue stem, although it's probably more like a fair plant for wildlife or livestock. And then I guess in our more riparian areas, a lot of times we see eastern gama grass. And gama grass is a huge grass. It's one of our tall grasses in Texas that people love to see, but it gets easily grazed out. So that's why we don't see it in a lot of
Mhm.
parks. Even our wildlife can have kind of a hard hit on eastern gama grass, but has a really cool, unique seed head. Look it up, look up a picture of it. It's pretty neat. Um, but it's tall and it's one of my favorites just to go along with those other examples.
Nice. Yeah, I like the site oaks as well. I the first couple of site visits that I went on, I guess I had never seen it before, and I wow, that really looks like oats.
Oh
And
my
they were
gosh,
like,
that's
yeah,
funny.
because it's called cytoscross.
Because it's literally oats and it
Um,
grows on one side, which is very helpful for its name.
so I now every time I see it, I recognize it because I had one of those
Absolutely.
moments.
Yeah, luckily they picked that one. And Cytoscrama was only named our state grass of Texas like in the 70s. So
Oh,
a lot of
really?
people remember when that happened. But it is a cool grass and it's a fun one to see growing out there on the rangeland.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are all very great. Thanks for talking about those. But let's move on to forbs or broadleaf weeds, as we like to call them in the hill country. Um,
Yes.
you mentioned Queen's Delight is your favorite, but do you have a couple of others that are commonly seen here?
Oh man, the hill country boasts a lot of wildflowers and very beautiful forbs or weeds. I'd have to go with Orange Zexmania. Orange Zexmania grows in kind of a small bush, has more of like a woody base, but it is a forb. It's not a shrub. Its stems and leaves have these stiff hairs on them, so they look kind of dull or kind of scratchy when you get up close to them. And the leaves are cool. They're kind of like pointed at both ends, and then they also have
Hmm.
pointed edges. So very distinct leaf. Once you see it, you tend to recognize it quite a bit. And of course, Orange Zexmania has a yellowish orange flower that's really pretty. But I like that it kind of grows as a bush and it can be used in landscaping, super beautiful and kind of keeps its shape in a certain area. So it makes it nice for a landscape plant. Um, Also, we see a lot of prairie verbena. I know you've seen prairie verbena. That one's it's about a foot. It gets up to a foot high. It can be much smaller, but it's got this kind of cluster of flowers, and they can be purpley pink colors. Super pretty. We have a ton of vervains. It's a vervain. We have a ton of vervains in the hill country, but the prairie verbena is one to me that kind of stands out just because it's super pretty. Um, they are perennials, so both orange Eximania and the prairie verbena are both perennials, so they would make nice additions to your landscape since they're going to be back each year.
Nice.
There is a book, so if you're interested in the wildflowers in the hill country, there's a book literally called Wildflowers of the Texas Hill Country.
Oh,
It
cool.
was put out by Marshall Inquist. It's kind of an older book, but it's a really great resource to get you started on identifying some of the more common forbs that we have in the area.
Awesome. That one is really pretty. I like that one too. But we are running a little bit low on time. But before we go, could you share about your extension plants of the Texas Rangeland website with us?
Oh yeah, yeah. Our online herbarium is the Plants of Texas Rangelands, and it's easy to find. You just type in rangeplants.tamu.edu. I love this website. It's got about 400 of the most common plants that we get questions about. And they have a little thing where it has characteristics where you could narrow down that list to try to figure out what you've got. We have some fantastic Texas Master Naturalists, many that are in the Hill Country chapter, who are helping us with this site, updating the website, adding new information or new pictures to it. So again, that's rangeplants.tamu.edu.
Perfect. And I'll link that in the comments below as well. So y'all will have all the links available to y'all. And but yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. I think that'll wrap
Absolutely.
us up. Next week we have sorry.
You have
We're
something.
gonna It's something good. We're gonna have a DAR agent, and we'll explain what a DAR agent is next week. Talking about go bag preparation. So if you're like with the recent flooding or even wildfires that we're kind of getting in season 4 here pretty soon. What can you pack in a bag if you need to leave your house immediately and you don't have time to round things up? So that's what she's going to be talking about, and we will see y'all next week. But thanks for joining us today, Megan.
Absolutely. My pleasure.